Günther Steiner's new book has started a fire between the F1 grid, as there has been comments in it which did more than just raise some eyebrows. The Haas team principal didn't hold back on Mick Schumacher, the driver that turned him from a rock star character into one of the most hated people on the grid, with the book sparking waves of reactions from fans on social media. But now Toto Wolff has entered the fold, defending Mick and throwing shots at the Italian manager. Join us as we take a look at Steiner's comments and the subsequent reaction from the now boss of the young driver. Günther Steiner has revealed that he released Mick Schumacher from his race seat at Haas last October due to a collision on a slow lap in Japan. Technically, it was a series of actions that the young star did, but the one in Japan was the last straw. Schumacher joined Haas as a rookie in 2021, but it wasn't until 2022 at Silverstone that he finally got his first points due to his lack of consistency. The team lost a lot of money fixing the 24-year-old's car following costly collisions in Saudi Arabia and Monaco. And according to Steiner's new book, Surviving to Drive, it was a crash on an in-lap during the Japanese Grand Prix in Suzuka that finally sent Steiner over the edge, and he simply snapped. "It happened on the fucking in-lap," Steiner said. "On the in-lap. Sure, it was very wet out there on the track, but nobody else managed to write off a car while they were driving back to the pits. We lose a car after 5 minutes and now have to build another. I cannot have a driver who I am not confident can take a car around safely on a slow lap. It's just fucking ridiculous. How many people could we employ for $700,000? And now I have to find that money." Schumacher cost Haas an estimated $2 million in repairs last year, which is a big factor why he was dropped from Haas in favour of Nico Hülkenberg, and has since moved to Mercedes not just as a reserve driver for Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, but for McLaren as well to replace Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri if needed. And as we'll see in a second, apart from the fans' reactions, Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff has defended Mick Schumacher, saying that if one thing had been different, he would not have been treated like that. This particular section of Steiner's book sparked a lot of controversy and reactions from the fans of the team and the sport in general, with people saying that Steiner needs to let this go because we don't see Mick talking about his former team the same way that Steiner does about him. I think that the funniest part in all of this is that the Suzuka crash that Steiner was talking about was not even entirely Mick's fault. It was the race engineer who told him to push during a high delta, and Steiner running his mouth like this is just embarrassing at this point. This was not the first time Steiner has viciously attacked Mick Schumacher. After he released him from Haas and in defense of his decision, he even went as far as casting doubt on Mick's background. Steiner was quoted on inews.co.uk as saying, "I just sat down with him and explained that we needed to bring the team forward with an experienced driver. It is part of the job. It is not a nice thing to do. I don't enjoy it, but you have to be professional about it. Dealing with a Schumacher is not easy, as you can imagine. He was grown up about it, but he wasn't happy. I would say he saw the writing on the wall. He's a clever kid. He had 2 years. We didn't get where we wanted to, and I had to make some changes. You cannot beat a dead horse." I think this is a very bad way of approaching things from the side of Steiner. Bear in mind that he is speaking about the son of a 7-time world champion. And even if you don't, it's still not acceptable. Yes, Mick had some crashes, and maybe ruined a few cars, but that's all part of the sport. I know for certain that Mick didn't want to deliberately crash the Haas, so that Steiner would have to pay extra money for repairs. That's just plain stupid. A very important figure has now stood in Mick's defense, as Toto Wolff commented about his reserve driver, saying that Steiner is only treating him like this because his father is not here to support him. As we know, Michael Schumacher, the 7-time Formula 1 champion and by many regarded as the greatest driver of all time, has been suffering from health problems for a decade after his skiing accident in 2013. And as of now, we know very little about his condition, as his family doesn't disclose many details. So, Mick had to fight his way to F1 without his dad's presence at the track. Toto sent some comforting words towards Schumacher recently, in an interview for the German newspaper Blick, saying, "I can only say that his parents did nothing wrong in raising him, and I affirm that if Michael had accompanied his son during the 2 years at Haas, Steiner would not have dared to treat Mick like this." This isn't the first time that Wolff has taken a dig towards Steiner, with the Austrian saying that the only reason why Haas and Steiner would even think about letting go of Mick is due to the fact that Steiner lives in the mountains where the air is thin and he cannot think clearly. Mick is yet to take the wheel of a proper Mercedes F1 car since his move to the Brackley-based team, but Wolff does have plans to build up an old car for him to get some laps in. "We are trying to have an old car ready for him as soon as possible," Wolff later said about his team's reserve driver. While Haas team principal Günther Steiner has been less than complimentary about Mick, Mercedes has embraced the junior Schumacher with open arms. The team has offered him a chance to prove himself and to continue his father's legacy. Mercedes has welcomed Mick Schumacher warmly, in contrast to Haas team principal Günther Steiner, who has been less than enthusiastic about Mick. He has been given the opportunity to join the squad and carry on his father's legacy, which speaks volumes about the appreciation the German team has. Even Ralf Schumacher, Mick's uncle, has criticised Steiner in multiple occasions, which in turn made Steiner throw shots at him, saying he's trying to drag Haas into a public fight. And while he admits Schumacher did make mistakes, Ralf has again recently pointed the finger at Steiner. "I just have to say that I expect a grown man to treat a young man differently. I think the young man could have been motivated better," he told Formel1.de. In a team where you have the feeling that you are not wanted and you are actually facing the sack, Mick has done a great job. Now the brother of the F1 legend has poked fun at Steiner further by asking him to buy his anti-wrinkle face cream in an Instagram post he has since deleted. In the post, Schumacher wrote, "With wrinkles and dry skin, I can only recommend Günther my new cosmetic. At least you can still do something." Although Mick's crashes are definitely ones that hurt Haas's budget a lot, one couldn't help but wonder, was the impact of the crash that strong? Could it be that the fragility of the car combined with Mick's mistakes were fatal for his future in the American squad? Haas are not a team that favours rookies and young drivers, as they have shown so many times in the past. I think that Steiner's had it with new drivers, and Schumacher's crashes further fueled his anger and impatience. We know Mazepin was fired from the team due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine and Haas's subsequent termination of the agreement with his father's company Uralkali, but that might have not been the only reason, and it was welcome nonetheless from Steiner's point of view. Then we have another potential candidate for a seat next season in Haas, even though Magnussen and Hülkenberg's seats are secure for this year, in the form of Daniel Ricciardo. The Aussie is taking a rest this year, but has stated his desire to return to the grid one day, maybe as soon as next season. And it's certain that Steiner would like to see his talent in the red and white car, being a veteran and an experienced driver. Despite the Italians saying that they will focus on their own timetable and not depend on Ricciardo's choice, it makes us think that maybe Haas could be a choice for the popular Honey Badger. With the dust settled and Hülkenberg contributing 6 points for the US squad though, is it possible that Haas made the right call? After all, what they really wanted was a win-now scenario, in which they were guaranteed to place well in the points. Despite needing 8 drivers to retire for him to finish 7th in Melbourne, Hülkenberg has proven in the first 3 races that he could be a more reliable option than Magnussen. Although Mick didn't always succeed in doing so, simply making it through the mayhem is more than enough to earn a starting berth at Haas. What do you think about Haas and Steiner? Was he right in bashing Schumacher so much? And what does the future hold for the American team? Let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below.